What would be quite nice for us to do, it's obviously just quite tricky to do this. Earlier, I was just talking about how, elephant bulls, I suppose it depends which environment they're in, but will quite often associate with one another. We see it a lot with younger bulls, but there's been some interesting studies done on the bonds between elephant bulls. And it's been also suggested that they're most likely to have one or two bulls that they associate with quite closely, especially up in the more arid areas of Kenya, and they'll spend a lot of time with one another. And maybe what we can do is sort of take note of some of the individuals that are around here. Obviously, we can use identifying features, but also we can see if they walk off together. Not that they would lose one another if one decided to have a drink for a bit longer. The giraffe is so patient. They're just taking the opportunity to focus on digestion. See how they're ruminating at the moment, waiting for their turn to have a drink. Oh, how exciting. It seems as though a Tau Lodge camera is up and running in Madikwe. Let's go check it out and see what wonderful wildlife is about. Here we go. Here we are. The usual culprits. Lots of bird life and the occasional crocodile. Maybe we can have a closer look at some of the birds, but right off the bat, you've got a hammerkop on the left, you've got the grey heron, a very tall bird, and it looks like white-faced ducks. And a red-knobbed coot, also just on that little island. You also see just how much elephant dung is scattered all the way and all around the edges of this waterhole. There we go. That's what we're looking for. How nice is that? have a closer view. You can very clearly see now the red-knobbed coot and the white-faced ducks. It's using their feet to stir up the silt at the bottom. There are also some shell ducks. Now, we quite often see the South African shell ducks too, but this one is most certainly a white-faced duck, or a whistling duck. To see the difference quite nicely, because I suppose you can potentially get confused, especially looking at a distance, because of the white on the face, but they've also got that patch of white on the throat, and then they've got the beautiful barring that runs just off from the breast towards the wings. And then, of course, just down below, a spurring goose having a sleep, not ready to start the day. I don't blame it. Head just tucked nicely under the wing. And you can now see that beautiful iridescence. And that just really depends on which direction the light hits. It will show different, slightly different colorations. Shame, poor heron. Not particularly beautiful in colorations, although you do get some really pretty species. I quite like the purple heron. And then who doesn't like the Goliath heron, the largest heron species? I'm surprised we don't see any of them up in this area. They would absolutely love it. Looks like the heron has maybe spotted something. And then, of course, all the crocodiles on the bank.
Hi, my name is Claire. WildEarth has been part of this home for many years as it connects us to the bush and the culture that we love and miss so much. I became an explorer so that other people around the world can get to experience the African bush in this unique way as well. I am beyond excited that I was drawn to win the prize at Ambakala Game Reserve for 3 nights. It is truly a dream come true.
Sign up today and you could be the one experiencing it for yourself.
This is a stunning view of a black-winged stilt, also just feeding. Something I've never actually seen before, and let me know if you have seen this, is the nest of a black-winged stilt. A lot of these wading bird species normally just make their nests close to the water's edge or a little bit of a distance off, and it's typically just a scrape in the ground. But I think with the black-winged stilt, you might be able to point it out, because their nest again is also on the ground. Or sort of in the mud, maybe in between some of those dried out crevices, but they do line it with twigs and grass, and maybe they even move the mud around depending on how soft it is. But that's something I haven't seen. It would be quite interesting to keep an eye out. Again, I'm so excited for summer, because then we have the potential of seeing a lot of birds that nest in the rainy season. Obviously, it's better to coincide it like that, because there's then an increase of food in various forms. You're just having a scan around. Everyone seems to be a bit more active, except that spurwing goose. Fast asleep. Oh, there we go. Head's popped up. You're going to ruffle your feathers for us? That must just be in a bit of a daze, in enjoying the warmth. No, still staying asleep. I'm sure you can all see the reflection of the elephant. That's not elephant, elephants are coming down to drink. Let's see if they're going to be brave enough. Are they going to go all the way in? They're just going to stand on the water's edge. Oh, so Cheetah, this is a great question. Something that would be great if we could see popping up on the cameras, but I highly doubt it. You've asked, where do blue cranes occur? So for those of you that don't know, the blue crane is actually South Africa's national bird, and I'm very lucky. I've actually seen quite a few of them, but sadly there are not very many left in the country. So from where I'm from, the Eastern Cape, in fact, you can see quite a few blue cranes, and I saw some now between just outside of St. Francis. There's a couple of big farms with lots and lots of grass, and they tend to like that habitat. So that's their favorite. They also occur up in the Karoo areas, but like I said, the best place that I've seen them is the Eastern Cape. And in fact, loads of them. I think one day I must have seen like 50 or 60 individuals. Otherwise, you can just occasionally see them in smaller groups, or even just a pair, or sometimes on their own, which is quite often seen, especially with the young birds that haven't found a mate. But it is an endemic bird in South Africa, so you're not going to really find it anywhere else, unless perhaps people have tried to introduce it. And then I've also heard that there is a small isolated population around Etosha Pan, obviously in Namibia. Not something that I have typically seen. And then again, if you go over to the western side of South Africa, so towards Cape Town, and probably just on the outskirts of that, you could potentially find them too. The heron had a quick gobble of something. Elephants being quite placid, and then all the other animals slowly coming in again. I'm always excited when the warthogs come down to the water's edge. They're quite entertaining. But just like what we saw in Olifants West at the Naledi camera, looks like one adult cow and her offspring. I suppose, again, you might get, individuals within a breeding herd that just want to do their own thing, that want to go and have a drink a bit earlier, so they could potentially split off and rejoin the herd at a later point. It's not like their sense of smell is entirely adapted. And of course, they're constantly communicating with one another through infrasounds.
We love all the support. We read all the comments, and now we want to acknowledge our biggest fans. Do you know when Ribbon was seen last? Or the names of June's cubs? Do you remember the last time we were up close and personal with an elephant? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you are in for a treat. WildEarth's Fan of the Month. We are looking for you. For more details, make sure to read our monthly mailer and keep an eye out on our social media pages. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
Those elephants not sticking around, all moving off now. But here comes a group of kudus, also some helmeted guinea fowl. This is a good place for the ground-dwelling birds to be here to kick open all of the elephant dung. Hopefully some fresher piles will come available. I think they definitely prefer that. Okay, I think what we're going to do is we'll wait for more animals. Oh, no, actually, you know what? Let's just sit and watch these kudu come down to have a drink. This is quite nice. It's such a big group. Oh, sorry. Sometimes this camera likes to do its own thing. One day the camera will zoom all the way to the right and it will reveal a lion. That's what I'm hoping for. We'll just make our way back to those kudu. It was such a big group of them. And so the impala making their way in. There we go. You can see most of the herd, though, is made up of females with their offspring. There's one young male in there who won't be tolerated in the herd for too much longer. We can probably in the next couple of months to about a year. There's actually two young bulls. They'll have to go off and do their own thing. They might still associate with other breeding herds if they're tolerant of them, but during breeding season, with the big kudu, the dominant kudu bulls, they're not going to want to have those youngsters around at all. So they better make the most of it. You'll find that these individuals are all from last year. They grow so quickly, but fairly nervous around the water's edge, as of course all animals are. It's better to be wary rather than too complacent, or else you might find yourself in a spot of trouble. You also see the oxpeckers at the distance just taking off and landing again on the kudu. Sure, they'll also be taking advantage of having a quick morning drink. Isn't that quite nice? You don't really need to go anywhere. You just go where your food source travels and then have a drink that way. Steve, you've said you say good morning firstly, and it's a great way to start your day with tea and wild earth. You're not wrong. This is quite pleasant. I don't know about anyone else, but I always feel so sleepy when I do these shows. Not for any other reason. It's not like I'm tired, but it's so soothing, and it sort of mesmerizes, and mesmerizes my brain, if that's a term, and then I focus on like the birds flying around. Very therapeutic. Kudu don't normally stay around for a particularly long drink either. In and out. But highly adapted antelope, you see them, typically they obviously prefer the denser vegetation. However, if we look at Okukuya, when we're in Namibia, you'll see there's plenty of herds too. They don't, like I said, they don't stay too often out in the open. Eight of them. You see those young males are starting to develop their shaggy beards. Also look quite awkward with their very long legs and their bodies and heads that haven't quite grown. It'll take them a little bit of time. It's always funny watching animals and the way that they grow. It's going to be a day filled with elephants. Let's pop across to Olifants West and check out Naledi Dam. Here we go. Quite a large elephant bull with his backside towards us. Oh, you can have a good view of all the veins that are exposed in the back of his ears. Can you see that? Especially on the left ear when he moves it away from his body. Oh, there we go. As he turns, there we go. That's much better. And those, of course, vitally important. The thinnest part of skin on an elephant's body. And that will definitely help with cooling the elephant down as they flap their ears, and that cooler blood just circulates throughout the body. Just wondering if we can maybe have if we could just turn the volume up a little bit on this camera. I don't know about you, but I'm struggling to even hear anything. A bit of pushing and shoving amongst those individuals. There we go, that's a bit better. We can now hear the shuffling of the elephant's feet. And a bit of a tussle, which we know is not unusual. You see the individual on the right is much younger than the bull on the left. Important that the older bulls just keep the youngsters in check. Will definitely suppress them from going into must too early. And then, of course, just understand the hierarchies. But in typical fashion, older bulls, maybe not the oldest, like some of the individuals we've seen at Old Donyo, they don't seem to be too bothered. But slightly older individuals always tend to push these youngsters around and boss them. I just love to watch what the tips of their trunks are doing. You can tell so much about their emotion, depending on the way that they're twisting them. Dark mane lover, you've asked how many tuskers, so elephants with rather large tusks, are there in this area? So sadly, there's not very many, but within this ecosystem that we're looking at now, there is one individual that we see quite regularly, and he has been dubbed Ezelwini, which means from heaven. And he's a beautiful individual. If you've been watching the live safaris when they're at Pridelands every now and then, managed to get him. I think I've showed you him, but this would have been a few years ago, a couple of times, and he really is a magnificent elephant. Here we go. Now you can see now the older elephant's really throwing his weight around. Come on, that's not much competition. I suppose they feel a bit better about themselves. Well, the elephant's really right up against the tree now. Perhaps that will support him from going any further backwards. Sneaky. Quite a clever thing to do. I'd try and move out of the way quite quickly as the bigger bull pushed and hoped that he banged his head into the tree. Wouldn't that be quite the sight? Got to be quite strategic about your movements. Yeah, the grey-headed bushrike also calling in the background. That's the territorial call, though, that very sort of harsh, rasping sound. These interactions amongst bulls are always so interesting to sit and watch. Because there's nothing really serious about this. But sparring is very important for one day when they do need to challenge another big bull to get mating rights. And it's better to practice. It's the only way you get good. Virginia, you are correct. It is quite fun to watch. It is indeed. And the youngster going back to have a drink now, hopefully in peace and quiet. Nope. You can see there's ample room to have a drink, but the older bull might push him off. Do you see how the elephant on the left, look at that? They're so clever. Stirring the top of the water, blowing bubbles. But you're not going to drink that, are you? Surely you're just going to toss the mud over the top of your body. Then does it matter so much? I suppose that just must feel good as well. Yay, yes, get in there. Go in deeper, elephant. We've yet to see swimming ellies. Well, at least I have on the cameras. Still waiting for that day. That's one of the most amazing things to see. And actually, the last time I was on the live drives, last afternoon, they had the most wonderful sighting just as the sun was setting. The elephants were swimming in Vuyatela or Gari Dam, whichever one you prefer. It looked like they were swimming in gold because of the reflection of light from the sun off of the water. So pretty. Go having a good cool down. Gosh, this elephant bull has got so much hair on the end of his tail. Can you see that? I suppose like with anything with genetics, that will determine how thick the bristles are on your tail. But if I was an elephant, that would probably be what my tail looks like, because the hair on my head is so thick. Got enough hair for about 6 people. It's a great fly swatter. And I don't know if you have ever seen what the hair of an elephant looks like. It doesn't actually look like hair at all. And when you find it, and I particularly tend to find it up against trees where elephants have used it as a scratching post, and then occasionally you can see a long tail hair or sometimes even the bristles from the body. And normally people need some kind of convincing that it is in fact hair and not a thin piece of plastic. It's almost like, I suppose, the better way to describe it is if you've ever felt the whiskers of your cat or your dog, that's kind of what the hair is like. But on the tail, it's a lot thicker. This is a great angle again. I don't know how more elephants don't poke each other's eyes out. You can see, look at how close those tusks come to their eyes. Oh, I've just heard that apparently a couple of weeks ago there was a water monitor that was just sunning itself quite peacefully on where that little reservoir is, and then unfortunately fell into the water itself. Well, the elephants would get a bit of a surprise when they'd stick their trunks in. I hope it was able to climb out. They do have long claws and they adapt incredibly well to climbing. Elephants, however, not great climbers. Although, actually, no, I take that back. I've also demonstrated a couple of times how it's amazing how they're actually able to climb up steep embankments at Pridelands, specifically around there, the northern side of the dam. I also love the way how they place their trunks onto the heads and behind the ears.
Those sounds just go straight through you.
Looks like that had turned a bit more serious. No, come back, we want to see you. Well, one bull kind of having enough now. And I suppose this consistently happens. And play and play and play. And then eventually someone gets hurt. And yeah, pushing him right off. Off they go. So that's just what's holding the camera up, that gum pole. And then you can see the plastic sort of wrap around the wiring just to protect it from the rain specifically. Keep it all bundled nicely together. Okie dokie. Thank you, Elephant Bulls. I think what we're going to do is we're going to pop over to Jamala, because we haven't had a look there yet. Okay, this is interesting. Can we immediately head off to the top left where the warthogs are? Because this is going to be quite fascinating. And obviously, we've got some elephants, but what's going on down that side is something that maybe some of you have not necessarily seen before. Okay, as we're starting to get a closer look, let's see if this young elephant's going to get involved or if it's going to go the other way. Excuse me, elephant. We are trying to look at the warthogs. Oh, this is typical. I'm just waiting for him to move out of the way. Hopefully he will head a bit more to the right-hand side of the screen and have a drink, or whichever side, really, further off to the left. I don't know if we can go close or if this is as close as we can zoom, but there's a family of warthogs feasting on a zebra carcass. From what I understand is yesterday, unfortunately, a zebra got stuck in the mud, and a couple of, 10 days ago, we were actually talking about animals potentially getting stuck in and around this pan, which does happen. And then they removed it. Obviously, with it being sadly, they just didn't get there quick enough. Although I did hear that it was alive, but it could have just died from exhaustion as well, as they flail about trying to get out. But if you're wondering about why those warthogs are feasting on the carcass, is that warthogs are actually omnivores. So they, for the most part, they feed on grasses and roots, fruit. However, as it starts to get drier and drier, and there's not a lot of nutritious grasses and the other things that we mentioned, they need to try and get their protein intake. Now, I've seen warthogs feeding on the partially digested grasses. Helicopter flying over my house, but they will of course eat meat as well. So that's what they are doing there. This is so fascinating. This is something that we don't get to see every single day. You see the young pigs also getting involved. Now, they're not going to stand here and devour the carcass completely. And when we had a look at it a little bit earlier, it looked like something else had been feasting on it, but they're just going to have a nibble. Yeah, but I've seen warthogs eating all sorts of things. Actually, we've seen it quite a few times on the live drives as well. But this is a first on the live cameras. I'm just taking a break. Now she's going back in again. See that? One young pig literally stepping on the carcass now, trying to get in there. Just like other members of the Suidae family, they also feast on all sorts of things. It's just fascinating. So I wish we could get an even closer view, but these cameras do have their limitations. I'd like to be able to see how big the chunks of flesh are that they are tearing off of the zebra carcass. But nothing goes to waste in nature. I'm sure the flies would be involved as well, laying their eggs. And over the next couple of days, we'll see maggots and all sorts of things. Although maggots can typically make people squirm. There we go. So fascinating to watch the animals feasting on their carcass. We'll keep an eye out because I'd like to know what ate the zebra earlier. They ate around the hindquarters. So it could definitely be one of the big cats, but of course there's hyenas around too. Maybe we'll be lucky enough to see brown hyenas. Can you imagine? Scavenging, Madikwe is known for their brown hyena sightings. Little elephant, you be careful. I suppose this is not a teeny tiny elephant. Look how cautious it is also being. Not going too deep, but this pan has dried out significantly. So it is a death trap at the moment. Now, elephants have the advantage of that long trunk that they can stretch on out, but you can understand how animals like zebra, wildebeest, impala, kudu, it could be quite dangerous for them to walk down, especially the side closest to the camera. You can see the opposite side, the ground is quite hard, so it would be a safer bet for them to drink there.
Do you love relaxing at a waterhole with the sights and sounds of Africa all around you? Well, we have some really exciting news for you. From August 1st, Africam is joining forces with WildEarth to bring the majesty of Africa right into your living room with 9 incredible new Waterhole cameras from across South Africa and Kenya. Get ready to embark on a new journey. This is Live at the Waterhole.
There we go. Isn't this great? I like the cow on the right-hand side that has managed to toss some dirt on her face. Her whole head is dark brown now. And those high-pitched squeals from the youngsters is quite entertaining. Be great if they could also get the zoomies, the youngsters, and chase one another around. There we go. There's the youngsters, all pushing and shoving one another. Look how they're moving off so quickly now. There's the zoomies we were hoping for. I don't know if you can call it zoomies for elephants. Oh my goodness, that can't decide what it wants to do. It wants to shove its face into the ground. Are you itchy? Is something stinging you? What's the problem? Not going to retreat amongst the adults, try and sneak in there. It's nice when you're that size. You can literally just take the gaps between the elephant's legs and drink some fresh water. Oh, elephants are just truly amazing animals. It's quite a time-consuming process, though, for the elephants, having to drink so much water. They spend a lot of time around here. James, you said the youngster that was sort of squealing, trumpeting earlier, it sounds like a rooster. Absolutely. First thing in the morning when you're waking up and the chickens and roosters are getting ready to start their day. Absolutely. But elephants, like I was saying, they have a host of different vocalizations that we can hear, but the most intricate communication actually happens in very low frequencies that we aren't unfortunately able to hear. I wish there was a device, what's wrong with me today, that could pick up on those frequencies, but then able to hear. I also recently read something that was quite shocking, and to be honest, I didn't really know that elephants are also being poached for their skin. From what I understand, this typically happens with Asian elephants, not so much with African elephants, and that's probably why I haven't really heard of it before. It's not to say that it doesn't happen. And of course, it's being used for the trade with anything to do with medicine. So they make like an elephant skin powder. Some say that it can help sort out infertility issues or fertility issues. Others for stomach ailments, and I'm sure a number of different things too. And then, yeah, which is quite sad. Very, very sad. Thankfully, I haven't seen it. I have seen Asian elephants before in Sri Lanka. They're very different to the African elephants, including their vocalizations as well. They make a lot of squeaking noises, which African elephants can't make. Even their trumpets sound so different. But I suppose all over the world, people have accents, and so do animals. We hear it probably most noticeably with birds. Even when you're in the same country, birds from different regions have different accents. I think that little elephant on the left is not really drinking water. It's just having a bit of fun in the mud. Still trying to grasp how to use that trunk correctly. It must be so frustrating. And I suppose, again, we quite often anthropomorphize, but only just so that some of you can kind of understand and see what we're talking about. But have you ever watched a young child try and feed themselves? They haven't quite learned how to use cutlery or even their hands properly, for that matter. It's the same thing goes with these youngsters. And watching them trying to drink water, but then they pick their trunks up and most of it comes out. You can see they visibly get upset. What are you doing? Maybe it just feels nice having a trunk scratch. And rubbing its head also straight onto the ground. You sometimes see young elephants actually doing that. Instead of using their trunks, just actually popping their heads right into the water and drinking with their mouths. Oh, there we go. Into the mud. Oh no, having a bum scratch, sorry. That must be nice. Imagine also how it must feel as an elephant to have your first ever scratch. The relief that you must feel when you realize that you can do that to, of course, a mud bank, a tree, sometimes even termite mounds. And I know you all know what it feels like. If you're able to scratch your back, even though it wasn't itchy, it just feels so good. That's right. Elephants just actually haven't even learned. Grab a branch and then swing it over the tops of their heads or rub it against the side of them. They're intelligent enough. You can see the warthog's still feasting away. Gosh, I've actually been there for quite some time now. They'll be putting a dent on the zebra. I didn't think that they would feed for such a long period of time, but unfortunately Madikwe is not known for its grazing, definitely not at this time of the year, so perhaps they are really desperate. Look at that. Oh wow, that one at the back has really got a good grip on a bit of flesh. Obviously, I mean, warthog's teeth are not specifically designed, right, to be able to tear flesh. I mean, their incisors that they have are modified. I was hoping that there would be maybe some lions or something lurking in the bushes behind, but we had a look a bit earlier and we didn't see anything. And it's not like we couldn't see brown hyenas either coming to feed in the day. I've actually seen that a lot. Funny enough, when I was training as a guide a very long time ago on Amakala, we used to see brown hyenas fairly often scavenging during the middle of the day. But again, as we know, predators are completely opportunistic. With brown hyenas also being shy, it might be a better opportunity for them to feed without having to worry about anyone else. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's interesting. Look at the sow. She's chasing the other warthog off, which is not part of her family group. Shame, poor pig. Just went in for a wallow. I don't think that it thought it was going to get chased off, but very protective over that carcass. It just goes to show you how dire these times are.
Are you WildEarth's biggest fan? Well, we have a brand new competition for you. Join our naturalists on Safari Live and listen out for weekly questions. To enter the competition, head over to our Instagram, search #WildEarthFanOfTheMonth and comment your answer under the post. The monthly winner will be determined by the total quickest and most correct answers. We announce our winner at the end of every month. Tune in to Safari Live daily.
This is such a wonderful sight. So much going on. And the elephant on the left, you can see how it's resting its trunk over its tusks. That must provide so much relief. And imagine having a large muscle just dangling off of the base of your head. Well, I suppose we know it's an extension of the nose. But for any of you that have got long, thick hair like I do, I don't know if anyone's ever done this before, but if I grab hold of my ponytail and I lift it up, it's so heavy, so heavy. And it also does. And then as soon as I drop it again, sometimes it pulls against my head. So that's how I'm comparing the two. It's very relaxed too, this cow. We typically see that happening more often with the elephant bulls. It's obviously a bit easier for them because their tusks get a little bit longer than the cows in South Africa, which is such a shame. But I think what we will do is we're going to quickly pop on over to the towel cam and maybe have a look at some more birds. Loads more elephants and wildebeest. I see there's a couple of comments wondering if I'm actually able to zoom on these cameras. So no, I'm actually not in control of them. I just sit here and talk nonsense. Everybody's having a scratch, finding all sorts of objects to scratch on. I suppose on underneath the belly, though, in between the legs, with the ticks, but a very specific species of tick, and is able to bite through that tough hide. The elephant cow has picked up on something interesting on the ground. She sort of was making her way to the water. But their sense of smell is so much more sensitive and acute than ours as humans. They're sniffing around like a rock or a piece of mud, dried up mud. Oh, look at them go. Oh, there we go. That's nice. So that's the most effective way to get mud under your belly, or you can just roll down in the mud like this. Look how happy those youngsters are, living their best lives. See, I could quite easily be an elephant. They are my spirit animals, just with everything about them. Oh, sure, that one got a kick to the face. See, why waste your time using your trunk, which can only hold so much mud and water in it, when you can just literally roll around like this? We don't often see adult elephants rolling around in the mud. We see them swimming a lot. I have to say I've seen more elephant bulls, fully grown bulls, having a mud bath rather than the cows. I'm not sure why. I also don't understand why they don't go in deeper to feed on the nice green grasses that you can see all around here, because it's really just the only greenery. Hopefully, as I say that, I can eat my words and we'll watch them actually feasting on some of the grasses. The elephant on the left Looks like she might be feeding. I don't know if she just picked up a bit of mud and chucked it in her mouth, or if she's actually picking up the pieces of grass. I don't know, there. Looks like she's pulling small pieces out. Again, I also don't know how much of it is actually grass. There's some grass, definitely, and I still have no idea what that plant is. I've said this so many times, but it's so difficult for me to get any identifying features off that. So if you have heard one of the other guides, maybe on the live drives, potentially talking about this plant, please pass it on to me. It would be great. You can just see how those elephants do sink into the mud quite a bit. Maybe that's what they're slightly concerned about. Oh, there we go. I can tick that off the list. No, elephant. You're going to have to go in deeper to get a good grip by the looks of it. Oh, there we go. Shaking it off, getting rid of the mud that's stuck on the roots. Giving it a good swing around. I suppose that must be like, when you put lettuce in one of those dryers and you sort of spin it. Maybe it's like the equivalent. Well, hopefully your lettuce is not covered in mud, otherwise that would be a problem. There we go. If I were that grey heron, or even the hammerkop, I would move around to where the elephants are, especially if they move into more of the open body of water, and utilize all the frogs or fish or whatever else is in there as they try to escape the elephants. It'd be quite an easy way to grab some delicious things. Leslie, if you're wondering, how do elephants show affection? So, oh gosh, it's actually so sweet, Leslie, watching elephants interact with one another. So you'll often see them putting their trunks in each other's mouths, and it really just depends on the situation. But you might see like an adult elephant put their trunk in a younger elephant's mouth, and this could potentially be just trying to reassure it that everything is okay. So that's one way. I have also seen older elephants, especially cows with their youngsters, sort of like wrapping their trunks around their little ones. Not particularly do anything, so I imagine that must be another way. I'm just trying to think how else an elephant would show affection. Maybe through communication, in terms of like audio communication, rumbling, things that we can't necessarily hear. Anyone else got any ideas as to what you think or how elephants could particularly show that they enjoy one another's company? What we see, obviously, with animals that have got a lot more hair and tend to suffer from more parasites is that they will consistently groom one another, and that's a way to develop social bonding. But that's not necessarily the case with elephants. They're looking for some loose soil now. There we go, that's a good trunkful. I don't understand how elephants don't sneeze more often. I don't think they can sneeze in the literal way. Do they? No. I've never seen an elephant sneeze, I can't say. They're finished and also moving off. They've had their turn. I'm motoring away from the water's edge now. There may be some other elephants. I thought I could see some, but they were a bit further to the left. But let's see where these guys go.
Discover the wonders of the wild with Safari Snaps, Africam's fun community game. While enjoying the live streams, simply tag the animal you spot. Each tag earns you points based on the rarity of the species. The rarer, the more points you score. Your profile and the Safari Snaps leaderboard will keep track of your impressive tagging skills. Join us on Safari Snaps and let's celebrate the wonders of African wildlife together.
I actually haven't seen many elephants drinking and splashing around from the side of the dam. It's quite nice with the smaller pools with lots of water in them. And they will just continuously keep digging this out. You can see as they rub up against the sides with their heads, with their feet. More and more of that mud embankment just wears away, helping expand the size of this sort of waterhole. The young one's not really wanting to get out. I don't blame you. Surely you're not going to try and climb out there. That's going to be a slippery slope. Looks like they're finally going to head off now. Hi, elephants. There's a lovely view, though. Let's have a quick look around, see what else we can find. Oh, there's a lot going on over here. Hello, heron. Still not caught anything, although we briefly saw it. It actually did catch something earlier. I don't know what it was, though. I'm actually wondering, does Madikwe have a frog list? Let me ask the interweb. Oh, they do. Let's see if they've got any platana species. I'm sure they should. Not that I can see on their list. I've got bubbling casinas, which is my favorite frog species. You can See banded rubber frogs, which are one of the most toxic. Sand frogs, some pygmy toads, and a couple of the grass frog species too. I imagine those might be the ones inhabiting this area. Okie dokie. The birds just seem to be doing the same thing that they do every single day. Let's go check in at Oldonyo in Kenya, and maybe something else. Maybe the earlines are going to have a turn to come down and drink. No eland, just some elephant bulls and a few more oryx. Oh, here come some individuals with much larger tusks. Well, that was a very aggressive splash of water. I reckon that would hurt if an elephant were to vigorously splash that water at you. Even mud, can you imagine? Well, some days when we watch elephants swim and you're stuck out in the open and not parked in the shade of a tree, you kind of wish that the elephants would spray you with water. I don't know if you've actually seen us on the live drives, but quite often now I'm coming in I've wrapped myself up in a kikoi that's drenched, and then I sort of just drive around. I will take it off, obviously, when we are live on the show, but then in between, got to cover up. Keep cool from that sun. Sunscreen can only help you so much. Lorraine, you've said the definition of peace. Absolutely. This really is. You never get tired of those. The sounds of the trunks slapping against their bodies and splashing the water all over themselves. The noisiest of the animals that drink. Oi, you know what startled the other individual? Look how he's stretching his trunk out. Who are you trying to talk to? Or what have you smelt? I think that would be quite interesting to be an elephant for a day. Also something I speak about quite often. But being able to smell like an elephant, being able to obviously see how far you can smell certain things. There's been lots of studies that have been done on elephants, mainly elephants in captivity though, where they do the test of a certain sense, and obviously they're able to also identify, different objects and what their specific scent is too. And obviously we can do that to a degree, but our sense of smell is nowhere near that of an elephant. I once read that elephants can smell water, over about 15 kilometers away, which is pretty exceptional. I suppose that's super important, especially if you're in arid areas like this. Oh, hang on. It seems like something exciting is happening at Tower Lodge. Let's head right over there. Oh, we've got crocodile courtship again. This is awesome. We're kind of at that time of the year where breeding is taking place. But you'll see that the males will very often pursue the females, and he's obviously been successful in doing that. He'll sometimes give chase, but he's trying to mount her now, which can be particularly difficult. Oh, I just realized I'd muted myself. Typical, and was I was just saying how it's quite difficult, of course, for crocodiles to mate because of where the female's cloaca is. So, like most reptiles, it's just on the underside, close to the base of the tail. And then I'd also mention that luckily crocodiles can hold their breath for well over an hour, so she doesn't necessarily need to keep her head above the water. Oh, I did it again. I just realized that I was on mute the whole time. I need to stop doing that. Um, I don't actually even know how much you heard of me. You're probably like, Taylor, why are you so quiet? This is exciting stuff going on here. Anyways, I was just talking about how male crocodiles will mate with females on multiple occasions, but something that I haven't ever seen before is two male crocs of equal size having a proper dispute. Seen lots of younger males chasing off older males, sorry, chasing off younger individuals. um, and then I'm sure you could have noticed as the croc that's at the base of the screen, as soon as it started moving in, the other individual in the middle, that big male, turned his head slightly, I suppose, just to keep an eye on him. And I'm quite confused about where these crocs would actually be nesting, because right now it doesn't look like ideal nesting sites. They normally will use, sand banks above the flood line of the water, otherwise they run the risk of losing their entire nests. And also the soil or sand or whatever they are choosing to make their nests on, it needs to be fairly soft. Even though they're equipped with powerful claws, they still need to be able to dig down into the ground, and so that they can lay a big enough, so they can lay their eggs in a big enough hole, and then they have to cover it again. So I look around here. I mean, we don't know what's behind the camera, or perhaps if there are some sandy banks which they could utilize. But after mating, ooh, did it get something? Definitely look, did it snap at a bird? That happens so quickly. But didn't look like whatever it snapped at was successful. Let's see. Or you're just in a foul mood and want to pick a fight. And Blacksmith were lapping, also coming in to have a look. But maybe over the next little while, we'll actually be able to see what goes on with the nesting habits in this particular area with the crocodiles. I suppose they also just have to utilize what's around them, but they wouldn't be here if this wasn't an ideal site, because not too far away from Tower Lodge, there's some rather large river systems that form the boundary of Botswana, and that would be ideal. Like the Limpopo River is filled with crocodiles. And the Hamacorp also coming a little bit closer. Okie dokie, we haven't popped over to Juma today. We haven't got much time left, so let's go see what's happening there. Oh, swimming elephants. Just what I asked for. Oh, isn't this lovely? And this dam is just so nice and deep and still so full that the elephants, this must be one of the favorite places for them to swim. At least on Juma. They do of course swim in other areas, but this dam is just so big. And these are most certainly what looks like it. Two elephant bulls playing around, and of course they do mount one another to show dominance. Hello, hippo. You've been disturbed. I wonder what that hippo was doing. Maybe it was just lying closer to the bank, resting its head out, and now plopping down into the deeper water. And of course, a trunk slap just to kind of say, hey, get out of there. I wonder if that crocodile that was in here at one point, it was a couple of months ago, is still around. Imagine how the elephants would love this waterhole in Old Donyo. They would lose their minds. Imagine just seeing how those big tuskers, they get so much relief being in the water. Obviously, they can't really submerge themselves at that waterhole. I wonder how long these bulls have actually been in here. They'll spend ages. There's no rush. Nice to take a break from eating. Jive, you said, yay, Juma pool party. I wish I could be there joining those elephants. I can't tell you how many times I've been so tempted to just dive into this dam. Obviously not a great idea. Definitely don't recommend it. I did go wading in this dam a little while ago, actually a few years ago, with James and Tristan. It was like International Frog Day or something along those lines, and we stayed out just after the sunset safari. And I recommended that we wore gumboots because I was like, things are going to be prickly. And James and Tristan laughed at me and they said we don't need to wear gumboots. Anyways, the ground was incredibly prickly that I did hear James and Tristan even doing a bit of a squeal. So that's the only time I've really set foot into this dam. And I don't think I'll be setting foot in any of the others. Although I watched the other day Cedric, which was quite entertaining, dive off of twin dams and tumbled into the water. That was most entertaining. I probably won't be doing that though, not on purpose at least.
On Woodbury Lodge's episode of Destination Safari.
I'm so used to views I forget to mention it sometimes. Underfloor heating in the bathrooms, air conditioning, all those luxury items.
Dinner is a full three-course meal, starter, main and dessert.
Early morning drive, and on that drive you might see some slightly different things, some rare things.
Destination Safari, bringing luxury safari travel to the world.
but I'm actually excited because I'll be coming back to Juma fairly soon. I think I'm back either on the 16th or the 17th of September to do the live drives. I hope I get to have many elephant encounters and lots of leopards, and of course my favorite big cat, the lions. Gosh, there's more than one hornbill there. It sounds like actually two individuals that you can just hear at the back, probably doing a display or just some kind of courtship, or even just strengthening the bond between them. You typically do that through vocalizations and many other ways too. Kathy Lee, you said, I remember poor James, soft feet. Now, this is obviously about the frogging scenario, but like I said, this happened many, many years ago. And I know a lot of you have only just started watching fairly recently, probably since the pandemic. We used to have a lot of fun and do all sorts of crazy things. We actually did find quite a few frog species that night. We had nets, we had gloves on our hands, because obviously you don't want to handle frogs with your hands, because they're able to, well, they've got very porous skin, so they absorb any toxins that you have on your body. And we cover ourselves with perfumes and body lotions and all sorts of things. So that's not good and something to take into consideration. We are back. We are back. Sorry about that, everybody. Just in the nick of time. It seems as though the internet is not necessarily on our side today. But we've been so fortunate. We haven't had that many issues over the last little while. And of course, these two elephants are still swimming. I'm sure they'll be here for a little while longer. But what a wonderful day it has been, filled with loads of elephants from all over. As you've been saying, I think it's just going to get better and better with the elephants And we're going to hopefully see a bunch more different species that we maybe haven't seen before coming down to the various water holes. But I hope you had fun, and we'll see what happens with that zebra carcass tomorrow. So make sure you join us then.